2023 AP Microeconomics Comparative Advantage FRQ. So in this first part, we're asked about which country has a comparative advantage in producing wheat. So based on the graph, we'll just set up our numbers. So for Southland, 100 wheat is equivalent to 50 yards of cloth. For Northland, 100 wheat is equal to 300 yards of cloth. And so 1 wheat is half a yard of cloth. 1 wheat is 3 yards of cloth for Northland. So the opportunity cost for Southland of producing 1 wheat is just half a yard of cloth. Meanwhile, for Northland, it's a whole 3 yards of cloth. That's why it's better if Southland produces the wheat and only has to give up half a yard of cloth versus Northland producing it. Part B, we're asked about a specific number of cloth that could be traded for 10 wheat and still be mutually beneficial to both Northland and Southland. So we already figured out that Southland has a comparative advantage in wheat, which means that they will produce wheat and exchange it for Northland's cloth. So based on these ratios up here, 10 wheat for Southland is 5 cloth, and 10 wheat for Northland is 30 cloth. So the answer is actually any number between 5 and 30, for example 10, and this is because Southland wants to receive greater than 5 yards of cloth from Northland, and Northland doesn't want to give away more than 30 yards of cloth. Part C, Southland's maximum possible output of wheat falls from 100 to 75. So we're looking for whether it has a comparative advantage in producing cloth or not. So from the other numbers in the graph, 75 wheat is equal to 50 cloth for Southland, and 100 wheat is equal to 300 cloth for Northland still. This time we want to isolate 1 yard of cloth. So for Northland, when they produce 1 cloth, they only have to give up 1/3 of wheat. But for Southland, when they produce 1 cloth, they have to give up a whole 3/2 of a wheat. That's why it's better if Northland produces wheat, so no. For Part D, turnips are being produced in Algeria, a third country, which does not engage in trade. Runoff from turnip fields pollutes Algeria's rivers, hurting its residents. So this is an example of a negative production externality, right? The production of turnips is what's causing society harm. And so I've drawn the graph of a negative production externality, and currently society is producing at P1 and Q1, but actually society needs to be producing at P2 and Q2. They need to be producing a lower quantity, and it should be more expensive. They're producing at a higher quantity, and that's causing more pollution and harm to society. So based on the turnip market equilibrium, it's not an efficient allocation of resources because the marginal social cost is greater than the marginal private cost. In an effort to reduce pollution, Algeria's government imposes a lump sum tax on turnip production. What will be the impact on the turnip market equilibrium price and quantity in the short run? So for this one, you just need to realize that a lump sum tax will not affect marginal. So the answer is no effect. Comment any questions, like, follow, share, and let me know if you want to see AP Micro, Macro, Chem, Physics, or Calc PC.